Are you ready or no?
Should be. Right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call the meeting to order while Brad's getting us up on YouTube. What I'd like to do is ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Brad, can you do open meeting law compliance and roll call?
President Chu.
I'm here.
Trustee Pecca.
Here.
Trustee Finch is excused. Trustee Newman.
Here.
Trustee Millies.
Here.
Commissioner Nowak.
Here.
Commissioner Rinaldi.
Here.
Commissioner Alex.
Here.
This meeting is noticed and posted according to law.
And of course, we have our infamous zoning and planner administrator, Sean Malarkey is here. Yay! So what we're going to do is have a public hearing, and what's going to happen, I'm going to read the notice, and then Sean's going to do an update on what he has for that public hearing, and then ask the petitioners if they need anything to add. Then we'll ask the public if they have any questions, and we'll turn it over to the board and plan commission if they have any questions, and we'll go back and forth until all the questions cease. Is that okay? So I'm going to read the public notice of a public hearing by the Vernon Village Board and Plan Commission will be held on Wednesday, August 14, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Village Hall located W249, South 8910 Center Drive to consider a request by the applicant Doug Anderson doing business as Miller Pipeline LLC for the property owned by Miller Pipeline located at South 74, West 24255 National Avenue, Mukwonago, Wisconsin 53149. Identified tax key number is VNT 2053997-003 for the issuance of a conditional use permit to allow a contractor yard per section 322B4 per the Village of Vernon ordinance. Doug, did you and Chris want to take a seat up here? So, like I said, what's going to happen is Sean Malarkey will give an overview, and then we'll ask if you gentlemen would like to add anything to what Sean is stipulating. And then we'll proceed with the public hearing. Sean?
Thank you. If you recall, some of you may recall, back in 2021, my staff report's incorrect. It says 2001. Back in 2021, the village approved a conditional use for hydro excavators, Hydro-X for a contractor's business. They have an existing conditional use permit out there and site plan of operation for their contractor business and contractor yard. It's a 25,000 square foot building. That was approved. That includes office, shop, warehouse space, and then they also have some equipment on site that's stored indoors when not in use. There's some equipment that's occasionally on site during the day. At the time when that was approved, they showed some potential expansion to the east, which would have been in this area for additional building and some additional outdoor contractor yard space. They are proposing an expansion. There's also a new owner at this point in time, so it's Miller Pipeline, who's the owner of the property. Doug Anderson was the petitioner originally, and he's the petitioner this time around as well, as part of Miller Pipeline. The property is accessed essentially from an outlot. This outlot's owned by the village. The stub road that accesses National Avenue is improved to village road standards, and there's accel, decel lanes on National Avenue. So that's fully improved. That's where they will continue to get their access from. Some of the plans, and I guess I'll flip to those. So in your application, I'm not exactly sure what you have, because the original submittal was, when it was submitted, it had a set of plans, including the site plan. The civil plans, as they stand now, that's in the packet, don't match the current site plan, because the site plan and some of the documentation has been updated since. I prepared a draft staff report, gave it to the petitioners. They started to do some updates, and then they've submitted. So I'll try to keep the confusion to a minimum here, but originally, as part of the original application, they showed a future entryway or a planned entryway on the National Avenue. They've been in talks with Waukesha County DPW to get an access point on the National Avenue. The certified survey map for the property does prohibit any access to National Avenue from the property. So I think as it stands now, Waukesha County has seen this, has denied the future access way pending a potential appeal by the petitioner to get an access point on the National Avenue. The certified survey map would have to be updated. I think it'd be a better site plan if everything works out traffic-wise from the county standpoint. A traffic impact analysis might be required as part of this, but right now, they're just showing this as a future entry, a possibility in the future. So any approval would be just that. They'd have to essentially come back with their site plans, reapproved essentially, or an amendment done. So right now, we're just looking at an access point on the National Avenue through the paved area, probably south of the existing building for equipment, and then employee vehicles would come along north as such. So this is a pretty major expansion to the existing operation. You can see here's the new building, which is essentially 19,400 square feet, so a little smaller than the existing building. Would be about 14,000 square feet of equipment repair and maintenance space, and then about 5,150 square feet of office and support space. There's a large yard that's part of this. They're showing 200 pieces of equipment on the property, which would include such things as backhoes and excavators. So all those little squares you see are potential pieces of equipment lined up. Another thing that essentially changed from the first time this was submitted, or how it differs from the civil plans, is that the building was oriented more east-west, and now it's more north-south. The garage doors, the overhead doors, are on this side of the building and then this side. So by turning the building more north-south, it minimizes the visibility of the garage doors from National Avenue, and also improve the flow of vehicles and equipment surrounding the building and on site. The property is zoned I-1, which this is a permitted conditional use. The plan of operation was originally submitted as part of the original application. It's been modified slightly. Previously, it was 25 full-time employees. Now it's 40 full-time employees on the property. Company vehicles and equipment are to be kept within the enclosed contractor's yard within the building. Originally, the original plan of operation for the western building, the existing building, talked about 12 large hydrovac trucks, 3 one-ton trucks, 4 pickup trucks, and 4 small equipment trailers. I'm not sure if that remains the same. I guess that's something that when I'm finished, that maybe the petitioner can clarify if that still remains. What's being proposed for this site, obviously, is the 200 pieces of outdoor equipment, including backhoes and excavators. They were allowed to do some corrugated pipe storage south of the existing building as part of the original operation. Now they're proposing a outside storage area that's just under 10,000 square feet for pipe storage. I'm not sure if that's for both buildings or not, so that should be clarified as well. In the zoning ordinance for conditional uses for contractor yards, there's a few different criteria, one of which the site has to be at least 3 acres. This site is 16.71 acres, so it meets that requirement. All buildings using the conduct of business have to be at least 100 feet from any adjoining property line, or 100 feet from adjoining property lines of residential, or 50 feet from all others, so that this meets those requirements as well. It's got to be an arterial collector roadway. National Avenue is obviously an arterial roadway. A planting screen of at least 10 feet high. Initial height has to be provided between the use and any surrounding property line. If you look at the aerial photograph, you can see that there's substantial vegetation. As soon as it loads up here. On the south property line, there's some vegetation on the west. And the east property line, there's also vegetation as well. So they are proposing a landscape plan, which I guess I'll address some of the landscaping when I get to that section. But they are meeting the point requirements per the site plan of operation requirements in the ordinance. However, because it's a conditional use, because it's a contractor yard, the plan commission and board essentially can dictate what you want it to be or need it to be for screening. And then finally, the plan commission and board have to make a determination whether or not it's compatible with adjacent land uses for a contractor's yard. There's also some general conditional use considerations in the ordinance. They're from section 300-22A4 for any conditional use, and essentially that's whether or not it's compatible with the area, whether or not it's contrary to public health, safety, and welfare, whether it be hazardous, and is otherwise compliant with the zoning ordinance. So the plan commission should make a determination on that. A few more items here, and I'll turn it over to the applicant. Bring up the pictures of the actual building. So here's what the renderings that the petitioner has submitted. Here's the existing building. National Avenue is out here, so we're looking sort of southwest. The building materials match what's already out there. Essentially, it's a metal building, but there's some metal panels and some windows and awning and some decorative panels between the windows. This one is set back considerably further from the road than the existing building is. Parking, the original parking plan for the existing building had 24 spaces plus 4 expansion spaces. The new layout takes a look at adding an additional 11 spaces on the site, which is out front here. Essentially, there's 39 dedicated parking spaces. There's 40 employees. The petitioner stated that visitors are few and far between to the site. And the original application also stated that field workers sometimes park in the back of the building. So I think with the amount of space in the back and the contractor's yard and dedicated spaces, there's likely enough parking spaces, but Planning Commission Board should consider that as well. The plan itself shows crushed stone lots. I think the application talked about crushed asphalt, so that should be clarified as to what that's intended to be. Now, the zoning ordinance does require asphalt or concrete for commercial operations, but there is an exception to that. So if there's a unique situation or a situation where the Planning Commission Board feel that it's not detrimental to the property or to the surrounding properties, that you can approve some of the material. Let's see. I mentioned the landscaping. They do meet the point requirements for landscaping on the property. I guess just a couple questions when we get to the landscape plan. It's part of the original civic plan submittal. Here's the landscaping plan. It's a little hard to see because it is black and white, but there's substantial landscaping that's proposed along National Avenue in the stormwater ponds. Again, the rest of the perimeter is pretty heavily landscaped. I guess the question is whether or not additional landscaping should be required between the operation and then D&J and Sons, which is just north of that. I drove by today on the way here. It's you don't really get much of a view of this property line from National Avenue because the building and the yard do block that pretty heavily, so that may not be necessary. One question for the petitioner for me is the plans do show a potential future berm. I'm not sure what that's intended to be, if it's for screening or for planting, what that is, so I'd like some clarification on that. There's no lighting plan submitted. I think that's going to be important to see where the lights are and a little photometric plan, because we do limit foot candles to half a foot candle at the property line. I would also suggest that based on the internal layout and one access point that the plan have review from the village fire department, the fire chief, to make sure that turning radius and everything else works okay. Stormwater management, again, they'd be working with the county on that. Any approval of this would be contingent on final approval by the county for stormwater. I do show, I don't think this wetland is there, but we're going to need something that says it's not, or shows it's not. The DNR's surface water view and the county's GIS show a wetland on site at this location.
We have to review it, it's not.
It's not there, okay. So just some documentation from...
We have a delineation.
Okay, that sounds good. That was my, I suspected it wasn't there, but we just need to make sure. The engineer provided a couple comments, one of which was Their easterly stormwater pond is gonna be really close to the stormwater pond on the D&J and Son site, which might be tricky, but again, stormwater is a function of the county, so they will take care of that review. The plans show new septic tanks south of the building, but no mention of the septic field. I don't know if it's just supposed to be a holding tank or what this is supposed to be, but that should be clarified, because the septic field would need undisturbed land. And more information on the pavement radii, turning radius may be required and indicated. So I do have a series of conditions here if the Plan Commission and Board would choose to approve this. There's a bunch of information that I think should be submitted and is forthcoming. It's essentially up to the Plan Commission and Board whether you feel that that would be a staff review or you need to see that information for yourself moving forward. So that's all I have.
Doug or Chris, did you want to answer Sean's questions in regards to?
Sure.
Is that on?
Yeah.
Yep, should be in.
So my first question, I think, was, well, one of the questions was about.
Well, let's start in the start. So, we had been in conversations with the county about the access road, and we were moving faster than we were getting the responses. So, we got late feedback, and I sent a message to 3 of you that we got denied. And so, looking at the appeal process and also trying to maintain the schedule that we want, that Miller Pipeline needs to be on, we shifted gears and we're going to focus on using the existing stub road access. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to pursue the appeal. I just don't think it's going to be in a timeline that's going to fit this season or even maybe next season. But that's why we kept it on the plan, so as it's a future. And we did have a traffic study performed, and Taddy did it, and they don't see a reason why not to have it, other than the CSM language. So, and that's a big part of not having it, right? From an engineering standpoint, it seems to meet the sight lines and so forth that are required for that. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that could be coming in, say, 18 to 24 months, as we go forward here. To your questions, the berm in the corner, because that's fresh in my mind too, I'm not quite sure what that's about either. I think that's someone's idea of screening in my office that I didn't pick up when we submitted.
Oh, I think we actually mentioned it in a very preliminary conversation we had about what we would have to do back in that corner. So
Okay.
we put it on there so we wouldn't forget.
I didn't see it on the landscape plan, so that's
And
why.
it's always been a good place if you want to put a political sign right there. It's got.
Nice view.
That's like, darn. No.
So I think that's a good idea, if there's a berm there with landscape, because that is the visible.
That's the only corner, yeah. You didn't want to put the billboard there, Doug? No.
That's a
Separate conversation. So I wanted to touch on that site access point. And because of that late feedback, we hadn't got our civil plans updated yet. We were able to get our architectural floor plans, our architectural site plan, and we did, share late last night an updated grading plan with the group. But we understand that there's more to be done here on this project, and we already had the moment on the agenda, so we want to at least get some conceptual approval, at least, so we're going the right direction, if you will. We do want to start conversations with the building suppliers and material suppliers, so that's an important step as well. So Sean,
Yeah, so my other questions were about equipment. So originally the original approval was about 12 hydrovac trucks, 3 one-ton trucks, 4 pickups, 4 small equipment trailers. Is that still the case, or what are we talking about? Because we're looking at the whole site now as one, so.
Right. The volume on the existing building may change the type of equipment that's in there, but the count will stay relatively the same.
So what type of equipment are we talking about?
We may park a backhoe in there if we can't get it into their shop, but for the most part, we've got our water supply in there for our back trucks, so that's where they pull in the night and fill up. So that, I guess, to make it easy, we'd say that would stay the same.
Stay the same, okay. And then in the expanded yard, we have 200 pieces of equipment, including backhoes and excavators. Is there more equipment that would be part of the site?
No, that'd probably be max.
Yeah, and usually that's just off-season mats, so
Most
most,
of it, yeah, it stays out on sites during the day just
Sure.
for cost savings and.
Right.
the
You're never gonna
neighborhood's
see 200 pieces of equipment on your property.
maybe January, February.
Okay. The outdoor storage area, is that all the piping stored here now, or is the existing stuff behind the building gonna be there still?
I think it's probably gonna be all the pipe storage, because from our access route now, I think you run over most of what we would have behind the existing building.
Okay.
That's just a small footprint where a dumpster stays in.
That was my question about the dumpster. Where is that gonna be?
It's behind the building, number one building.
It's back here for both buildings, that's where the dumpster's
It
gonna
will,
be?
with the volume that we don't go through, that will serve both.
I think that was it. Let me just double check. Parking, I'm assuming it's potential for employees to park back here if need be?
Yes, yeah. A lot of the supervisors, if you will, come in, then leave. They're in there for 15 minutes and grab something and leave. So they're not in there full time.
Okay.
We're still including them in our count.
All right. That's all I have for questions then.
Mr. John, is there anything that you needed to add above and beyond what Sean stated?
No, I mean, we'll be supplying the lighting plan as we're going forward. We need to work through with what Miller Pipeline wants to have for site lighting. I don't imagine the whole lot's gonna be lit like a shopping center parking lot. It will probably be mostly around the building. There's security fencing and so forth as well. It's important for it.
It will mirror what we have now on the existing building and parking lot.
Right, I mean, I wasn't so much concerned about the building itself. It was essentially how much and how tall lighting would have to be over here.
And then Chris and Doug, right there now is that big berm that they had from when Paul had his business.
Right.
Is that coming down and then that
Yeah,
your lands?
if you zoom in a little bit here, or, this one here, based on where the stormwater management ponds, one's an infiltration pond, the eastern one, and the other one is a storage pond. That's gonna basically cut that berm apart.
Okay.
Based on the access. And as and basically the road, the future road, was gonna separate those two. We'll still have that pathway through because the ponds can't be merged. They're doing different things. So there'll still be a separation between the two ponds.
And when you talk to the county, did they realize that they have a little stub there from National into that second half of your property?
Yeah,
And they still denied it?
well, yeah, I think someone wasn't gonna go against the CSM.
Oh, okay.
And I could appreciate their, despite the fact of going, I understand how they didn't wanna stick their neck out on that, on
Okay.
judgment. So it would be required to have an appeal, and then we'd have to resubmit the CSM, amend the CSM.
With us in the county.
Yeah, which is another process that, is not immediate, right? So that's.
Okay. So what I'll do right now, before I go to Plan Commission Board, I'd ask the public, are there any questions or comments you'd like addressed during the public hearing portion? Any comments from the public? I see none right now, so what I'll do is turn the public hearing over to Plan Commissioner Board if they have questions for the petitioners.
So right now, they do not have any access to National Animal except through our parcel that we have.
Right.
Is there an easement on there? Or
Is it just an outlot for right-of-way purposes? I'm not sure, I don't know the history as to why it's an outlot and it wasn't dedicated right-of-way, but it is owned by the Village of Vernon, and the purpose of the outlot in the CSM is for road right-of-way.
Great.
Is there some way we can change that CSM to allow them to have a future driveway there?
They do, that is their driveway.
No, I mean the future driveway that they're planning.
So that's on our parcel, so it's own.
What I'm thinking of, that maybe a letter from Village of Vernon encouraging that access might help.
Oh, you mean to the county?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
To say we would support a change in the CSM.
And that's something,
to
yeah,
allow
that's something that the
access.
board can talk about, because we're working on something with the county now on a speed limit, so.
Okay. Access to all those vehicles that are parked there, they would go which direction? They're behind the building?
Correct.
Trucks would come on the south side, this personal vehicles and pickup trucks could travel on the north side.
Is that an automated fence on the west side of the existing building?
Both sides are on the.
Both sides.
And there's 60 feet of clearance between the building and the storage, so there's plenty of room to obviously get
Fire
around.
department has no problem getting?
Well, that was my question, that, I suggested that the fire
I
department.
can tell you,
take a
the fire department would like this building. we'll send Alex out there again, but,
Well, unfortunately, we just had them there today because the dust issues set off the alarm, so they were able to turn around. First time I've seen it, but.
and Alex, he'll give you some.
But not only the existing, but we want to see what their
Right.
thoughts and the
I need to reach out to Alex, next week to introduce the project to him, and we, because your area doesn't have municipal, water, we need to submit for a variance for the size of the building anyway, which is usually, he's familiar with that process.
Now, I'm just worried about fire department access to the new building there, that can they get through those automated gates?
They actually have, access to the gates with a fob,
Okay.
so, and the building.
And I've actually seen accidents there where the fire department, so I mean, that's all covered. I've actually seen, unfortunately, not Doug's business, but accidents happening there, and the fire department comes on your site and parks and.
And going past the site, I know that, further pond to the east there, Sean, you had a landscaping plan that showed plantings?
Yeah,
where-
I can pull that up. So here is the pond, here's the
Are those
landscape.
just shrubs there? or-
No, it's a combination of trees and shrubs.
Okay. On the renderings, they also show plantings on the south side of that.
Those are just the existing, the south side of the pond, those are shrubs here,
Yeah, we have
on the
shrubs
side,
and
inside the fence.
Yeah, they look like some pretty good sized trees on the renderings of the buildings.
I see what you're saying.
Oh, by the ponds?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's actually arborvitae shown here, but,
I think it's a juniper on the schedule, isn't it?
Okay, is,
Similar, there's.
so they're very similar
Yeah,
trees.
there's a mix of, there's three types of.
is there enough room between the fence and the pavement or to get those in?
Let's see. Those can grow pretty narrow, obviously, those are pretty narrow trees,
Yeah.
but.
Sure, you can get them in, it's just how long they're gonna live there.
Okay.
We can take a look at the, set that come out.
other questions?
Since we're looking at that part of it, I know it says a chain link fence, an 8-foot chain link fence. The existing is just a chain link, do you have any privacy slats or anything?
No,
proposed, or-
it's vinyl coated, but privacy slats
So
weren't
just matching the existing?
required as part of that approval.
With the crushed stone in the lot there, with not, I mean, you can have up to 200 vehicles, but most likely it'll be empty most of the time, or very few out there.
Yeah, not as many.
I kind of worry about weeds growing up in the gravel eventually. You say something about weeds must be kept at a minimum or something, because I'll think you got a vehicle sitting back there and the weeds start getting 3 feet high or something, and
Yeah, we could add a condition, so just to clarify, is this gonna be gravel, or is this gonna be?
It's gonna be a crushed asphalt.
Millings.
Milling.
Crushed asphalt milling, so it'll look like asphalt.
Yeah, so the reason being is, a
Less
lot of these
likely.
vehicles are track vehicles, they're not all rubber tires, so it's hard to pave that and maintain it.
So you'll update the plans to
Yeah.
say crushed asphalt
Crushed,
millings?
yeah.
it seems like it doesn't take long for weeds to start growing up in the gravel and
You haven't been by my house or something?
Well, that's probably gonna be an engineered base, you're probably gonna be, if you have heavy equipment, you'd be 8 to 12 inches thick of your millings anyway, so I think that'll be good suppression for growth like that.
Get the geotech report by Friday.
Yeah.
But yeah, the base will.
it's like the mulch, the weed seeds floating on top and they start, it's not from underneath.
I also wanted to tell the Plan Commission, in between Doug Minen in the village of Big Bend, American State is building a big building. So as far as, you know, being compliant, that's good. I haven't seen their plan, I saw some engineering plans, but there's gonna be a huge, contractor's yard in between, Miller Pipeline, Doug, and then American State. Yeah, that, I don't know if I
Is it this parcel?
Yeah, right there.
Has anybody talked to the mining property about this proposal?
To Doug,
The
your
business
neighbor.
East there, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I talked to him, I did go over, when we were originally looking at buildings themselves, and then he was interested in purchasing
Right.
some property, and I thought, we need it all, so.
Right now, you're not doing anything with that little triangle with all the trees,
Down here.
No,
because that's their property. Lots of trees there, and you're not gonna see anything.
Which is a nice screen from the
Right,
field.
yeah.
Was the question answered earlier about the septic field?
Oh, no, it wasn't. It's a holding tank. We're not gonna have a septic system. Thank you. There's a-
You indicated that when he was talking, you said.
No,
no septic.
no, I didn't get you well.
And you've talked to the county about the holding tank?
Matt, have you had conversations with Connie about that?
Not yet, no.
Matt's a civil engineer.
But that's the plan, the holding tank
Yes.
is.
Is there a holding tank?
The existing building has a holding tank.
Is that size adequate enough for both of them?
no, not for both.
Sean, can I ask, when Attorney Macy said, I know Doug and Chris had indicated that they're bringing updated plans, they're working on them now, correct?
Yeah, so we have updated civil plans that are coming. They mentioned the grading plan was done, but yeah, landscaping plans, civil plans, we need a lighting plan. So those are essentially the unanswered questions.
And I know Doug and Chris are looking for feedback from the Plan Commission, and Attorney Macy talked about possibly adjourning, having them complete all their plans and coming back next month when everything's completed.
Buttoned up. Yeah, I think what Doug mentioned earlier is he said he wanted conceptual approval to move forward. We obviously can't give conceptual approval because it's a public hearing. If we continue this, we have to hold the public hearing open until next month, or we could finalize things and close it and make a decision. So, this is really, the public hearing part is really just to, provide information and to take information, but a decision can't be made till the public hearing is closed. And if there's still information coming and you want to see it, the hearing's going to be held open.
Uh,
So right now, I'm looking for, before we do anything,
I covered my concerns, I guess. There'd be more information coming. I had no problem with what's being proposed.
and I have to say, this is right next door to my property. They've been great neighbors. Great business, good people. Doug didn't pay me to say that.
There'd be a little bit more traffic, maybe.
Yeah, but it's a really good business partner. So I just want a little pitch there. Any other questions from the board or commission?
Questions on the building appearance or anything?
Oh, your building's beautiful. Fire department really did want that building. I'm sorry, Mike?
Access, because if they want it, if we want it, like we were kind of talking about before, is there anything that we can do as a village to say, hey, we want to make that happen as far as, rolling, if it's being pushed forward again, getting a CSM amendment type of thing all packaged up so that we're not back at this another year from now saying, yeah, it really does make more sense to have that offer of ES. Directly.
Well, let me just really quick talk about the way the conditions are written. The conditions essentially say that that access point isn't part of this approval. However, you can come back and amend the site plan without the public hearing, without the conditional use amendment. So that would be fairly simple to do in the future. So that's baked into this. Whether or not the village wants to submit something formally to the county, that might be nice.
Right. Doug, can I ask who you were talking to at the county? Was it Brent, Jason?
Jason.
Okay. Well, you know what I can do? I can call Jason
Just say,
tomorrow.
hey, we're in favor of amending
Right.
the CSM potentially.
Right.
So.
Because I did tell them, when I met with the county executive, I did tell them what was happening with you, what's coming from Big Bend, because, that's their road, so. But
So I guess my question is, how quickly could you have everything updated the civil plans and the lighting plan down, and all the plans are questions too.
Probably, maybe week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay, so we could potentially adjourn this to next month.
Right.
And then,
Regarding the letter of support for the access, I think we're not gonna pursue the revision of the CSM at this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we would welcome that in the future, as we move that effort forward, after we turn the corner on this larger effort. which-
Right. So it's on an urgency right now?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
because the appeal process, could be time consuming, and we wanna just move forward with what we have.
Sounds good. Are there any other comments from the commissioner board? Any other comments? Nothing right now. Is there any comments from the public? I'm not gonna close the public hearing, but I just wanted to, before we adjourn this, because that's what I'm gonna assume that we're gonna do, so we can see all the plans. Jay?
Well, the only thing I can say, National Avenue is a very busy road, and just be careful pulling in, going in and going out of the place, and that's all. Yeah, I know what it's like, buffer to buffer.
Especially with some of the construction, but the traffic study was very positive, so we felt good about that, so.
I bet that was.
You're definitely very mindful.
I hate that. Wasn't that expensive?
They don't hand them out.
They did.
They're a for-profit business.
No. Well, Dan, I'm sorry.
Seems to me like that future driveway, if we had traffic going there, it's a lot safer than the one further to the west.
Yeah, and like I said,
Coming up over the hill there.
and that's something we can talk at the next staff meeting and, get a hold of the county, contact them. But if Chris and John are in any urgency right now,
Yeah.
because I'm sure I can't imagine, well, I won't even go there. But with that, since we don't have any more comments and we're going to adjourn this, I'd make a motion to adjourn this public hearing to September 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nowak. Do you want you want a motion from the board also? Because we've got a plan commission motion to adjourn. I'll
Make a
do that.
motion to give the county a letter.
Well, can I do this motion that's on the floor right now? So I have a motion to adjourn to September 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Is there any discussion from the plan commission on this motion? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now I'm looking for a motion from the board. Dylan?
Make a motion to give the county a letter recommending that we do the other driveway.
And your motion is included to adjourn to September 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. for the letter to the county. Is there a second to that motion? Second by, oh my God, Trustee Pecca. Discussion from the board. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll see you next month, gentlemen. You take care. Then let's see. Will not be in action. We have another public hearing then, gentlemen. This is a public hearing. Mr. Ronilli, did you want to come forward, or Mr. Hoffman?
Sure.
This is a public hearing by the Village of Vernon Plan Commission and Board. It will be held today on August 14th at 6 p.m. at the Village Hall, W249, South 89107 Drive, to consider a request from the Vernon Plan Commission Village Board to amend Chapter 30 of the Village Zoning Code to amend Chapter 322B4 and 322B9 related to contractor's yard and landscaping, contractor's yard and landscaping, lawn and guard business conditional uses. I'm sorry, this is, you didn't have to step forward, this is our petition. It's not down making it, this is from us.
They initiated it originally, and then we
Actually, you're pursuing it.
pursued it, right?
Okay, so Sean, I'll send it over to you, and then we'll start the public hearing process.
Okay, thanks. So last month, we originally talked about this when the petitioner came forward to make some changes with respect to the location of buildings used for the landscaping, lawn and garden, business conditional use. We talked about that. We also talked about contractors' uses, had very similar requirements, except they were slightly different. One was 50 and 100 feet, 100 feet from residential. One was 50 and 150 feet from residential. It didn't include anything else but the buildings, didn't include outdoor uses as part of that. So the other thing, we originally were talking about essentially adjusting those setbacks to be, if the use is in a commercial district or an industrial district, to just be the same setbacks and offsets that are required for those districts. The Planning Commission and board felt that you want to just keep them the same, make them consistent with each other, but just have some discretion to relax them when it made sense with compatibility. So I went back and I drafted some language between the landscaping use and then the contractor's yard use. So the language between them is now consistent with it's 50 feet from lot lines for all buildings and areas of the property used with the business, and 100 feet from residential lot lines for the same thing. The village board and plan commission has discretion based on compatibility of the operation with surrounding uses and proposed buffers. The rest of the language here is essentially making the two consistent with each other. I would say one thing, there's a mistake in my changes for basically page 3 under landscape, lawn, and garden business. It's letter G, where it talks about the design and size of the structures used in the operation of the business may be subject to specific conditions in the conditional use permit. I started to make that change there, but I decided against it. I didn't make the same change in contractors' yards. I think it should just still be shall be subject to conditions in the conditional use permit.
Instead of may? Sean?
Instead of may, yeah. I was toying around with the idea, but, so for the record, it should say may. Should say shall be subject to conditions. So, the rest is, again, just making them consistent with each other. The big change here is the discretion of setbacks and offsets. So, thoughts, questions?
Thanks, Sean. Plan Commissioner, Village Board, this is we talked about last meeting. I think Sean captured everything that we wanted. We wanted the consistency in the language. And Sean indicated on G how we're going to keep that as shall instead of a may. Discussion from the Plan Commissioner Board.
One question I have is, in the definitions, I know that that's not here. If I'm a landscaper, I think I missed last meeting, I did watch it, but I didn't see any discussion. A retail component is to get you out of the contractor's yard and into the landscaping, lawn and garden business?
Well, the landscape business allows the retail component if it's approved by the Planning Commission board. So that is a difference between the two, yes.
So if I'm a landscaper, I would be under the landscaping, lawn and garden business?
Right. As long as
regardless of having retail.
As long as you don't have retail. Well, if you have retail, then you would be as well. But yes, I think if you're a landscaper, you're in the landscape component. That was one of the things we wrestled with, last time around with that. So I think that's right now.
That makes sense, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
the distances are the same. They're consistent now, so that won't be a hang-up.
And I'm pretty sure this was a glitch when we opted out of
I think
county
so.
zoning.
It just wasn't consistent.
Right.
And I think the important thing now is that it's all buildings and areas of the property used in conduct, which is before it was just all buildings, so it exempted the outdoor areas. So now it makes more sense to me.
Any other questions or comments, or Dan?
I have a comment on Sean's wording on some of these, like 1B. You talk about distances, the setbacks and offsets required by the zoning district. They may be reduced at the discretion of the village board, and it almost seems like the village board is getting into planning here.
Yeah, so site plans of operations are ultimately approved, and conditional uses are approved by the village board. The plan commission makes a recommendation. The village board approves
It
upon...
sounds like you're putting the village board ahead of the plan commission there, because they always have approval over the plan commission, correct? Is that?
Not in all matters. There's certain things that the plan commission does by themselves. So in this case...
The way you make it sound like the village board has got the discretion to make the
they do. The village board can accept
if
anything.
the plan commission's okay with it.
No.
Yeah.
The board can disregard anything the plan commission says if they want to.
Sounds like the board is getting more into planning than they used to be.
I think this board's always, I don't know why, but it's always been so involved in.
So, yeah, I just, let me clarify, the village board makes all the decisions here. The plan commission makes a
Final
recommendation.
decisions, right.
So that's, they make the decision upon receipt of a recommendation from the plan commission.
And I think they wanted it that way because if the public doesn't like what's approved, they can't vote you out, but they can vote us out.
I'm not wed to
I'm
this.
not questioning that.
Right.
Yeah,
We're
I mean,
putting the
make a
board ahead of the plan
suggestion.
commission.
How would you rather have it worded?
But it does say upon receipt of a recommendation from the plan commission.
Right, it should be up to the discretion of the plan commission, and they're the ones that are looking at the plans, and we make a recommendation to the board. The board can approve it, they can deny it, or they could possibly send it back to the plan commission for review.
Or just change it on their own without
Well,
sending it back to the plan.
So Dan, how would you reword B1?
I
Or what
would put
be-
the discretion of the plan commission with final approval by the board.
I guess Dan, this language, the way it's written, is all the way, is through the ordinance all over the place. Like, the zoning ordinance has the same exact language.
Really? Yeah.
It does. That's how it's written almost everywhere. And so I can change it. I don't
Well,
care if everybody else.
We're going back to that's something, not now, but we're going back to some zoning amendments. Not something we can look at, if it's like this consistently throughout the zoning code, I'd like to keep it for now.
If that's the standard.
Right.
That is standard language. I know what you're saying. It makes it sound like the village board is the planning body, but yeah, I was just looking at consistency here.
Right. So make a note of that, final note, no. Anything else from the plan commission or village board? Nothing? Is there any comments from the public? No comments from the public. There are no comments. Last time, village board, none. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And then we're going into possible discussion to amend chapter 300 of the village zoning code, specifically amending section 322B4 and 322B9 relating to contractors' yard and landscaping, lawn and garden businesses, conditional uses, subject to the public hearing process. And it would be a motion from the plan commission to the village board. If you so choose to move, as you can see in Sean's recommendations, it would be the dated August 14th, 2024, with the, how many conditions are there, Sean?
There's three total conditions, and then the condition to remove the may in favor of shall in condition G or 1G, and then again this is subject to a village attorney review, legal review as well.
So I'll go ahead and make that motion to make a recommendation to the village board to amend the zoning code as detailed in the planner's comments August 14th, 2024, with the exception that is it G? It is 1G, instead of saying may, it says shall, with the condition of that be approved by the village attorney. Is there a second to my motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Trustee Millies. Discussion from the Plan Commission.
So I have one question, and it's because in thinking of the last approval that we just had, does our general parking and access language allow for the flexibility of things like gravel parking lots? Or is that something that needs to be into each conditional use, or is it governed by our general, that it can fall under that? Because I know in certain conditional uses it had to be written into the exact one versus the general code.
Yeah, so the general code under the design standards has that requirement, and it's got the exception as well. So any C requires site plan
That
and
could apply
operation
to this, so
approval,
you
that
don't have to-
automatically applies, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as long as that's in there, because I see these parcels being very similar to the last one, where it would make a lot of sense for that, so I want to make sure we have that flexibility.
Okay.
Other discussion from the Plan Commission? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion of concurrence from the village board for the recommendation of the Plan Commission as stated by the village president. Motion was made by trustee Newman. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Millies. Discussion from the village board. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next agenda item is chapter, let's see, we did that. Mr. Rinley and Mr. Hoffman are all done, correct?
They would just apply for their conditional use permit at this point then, yeah.
Okay, thanks guys, have a good night. Mr. Jason Riley, or Jason, you want to step up here? This is a discussion and possible action, a request from Jason Riley for the property owned by Jason Riley on W224 South 7970 Oak Ridge Drive in Big Bend, in Vernon, 53103. Tax key number 2065992 for approval of certified survey map to combine parcels. Sean, you want to take it off, and then Jason, if Sean misses something, then we'll ask you for comments. Is that okay?
Yes.
Sean?
Okay, Brett, could you flip back over?
Yes.
Thanks. So this is Mr. Riley's property here. It's off of Pinecrest Lanes to the north. Oak Ridge Drive is to the west. It's just southeast of Guthrie Drive, essentially. There's actually two parcels here, and so one is like 1.01 acres, and then there's a smaller parcel here. You can see it's connected with this little Z, which is 0.16 acres. They're both unplatted parcels. This smaller parcel was added on from the parcel south at some point in time. The petitioner is looking to combine those two unplatted parcels into a 1.17 acre lot, essentially to... Is this building removed? Is that gone?
That building's gone.
Okay, so this southern accessory building is gone. He'd like to build another accessory building, but it would have been too close to this lot line that still exists, so he's looking to combine two parcels so that lot line is no longer there, which makes sense and also cleans up the property. There's no issues whatsoever with the CSM from a zoning perspective. It's R1 zone. All setbacks, offsets, and size requirements will be met. I just have a few comments about this. Our surveyor has some technical notes as part of the CSM, so your surveyor is going to have to update the CSM to make sure all that stuff is satisfied, but I won't dwell on that because it's fairly minor stuff. So I just have a few comments. Oak Ridge Drive here, as shown on their CSM, is noted as a right-of-way, an easement for right-of-way purposes. If you look at it shows that plus the land further south. If you look back at this, the county GIS actually shows it as a piece of right-of-way. It's a 33-foot piece of right-of-way. If you go north to Oak Ridge Drive, you can see that's 66-foot. Half of it was basically dedicated at one point. The other half was never dedicated. So one thing, as part of the CSM, it's got to be clarified. Is that right-of-way or is it an easement? I think it is right-of-way. And if it is, we want to see the other 33 feet from his property dedicated. So if you would carve out another 33 feet of this property, that's about 1/10 of an acre. That leaves him with 1.07 acres. So he's still above an acre threshold, which gets him his accessory building, and he's still the right size for R1. But we'd ask that happen. And then it also looks like the property to the south, they have a shared driveway that goes out to Oak Ridge Drive. The petitioner's property is here. Here's his driveway. It's a shared driveway. It looks like a portion of the neighbor's driveway is on the property. I don't know if that's the case or not, if there's a shared access easement as part of that. If that's the case, but that should be clarified if there is an easement and what document number it is as part of this. I think that's really all I have. I know there's another agenda item coming up, and that's for the waiver for the accessory building, but we're just talking about the CSM at this point. That's all.
Jason, did you want to add anything to what Sean stated to the Plan Commission and Village Board?
I do not have anything.
Okay, are there questions from the Plan Commission or the Board to Sean in regards to Mr. Riley's request to combine the parcels?
Sean, what lies to the south of that Oak Ridge Drive?
That is a good question. There's a fairly large property here. It's 3.5 acres. I don't exactly know what's going on here.
Well, what's on the southern end of the?
That butts into the
Payne and Dolan?
the Payne and Dolan quarry on the south side, so I don't know if and when that road is ever gonna go anywhere. However, it could access this parcel here, and this parcel could potentially be divided based on a road connection coming in at some point, so,
So who owns that parcel now?
this one,
Oak Ridge Drive.
Oak Ridge Drive, when you click on it, there's nothing, that's why it looks like right-of-way to me. There's no ownership, it's just right-of-way. It's 33 feet wide.
So village owns it?
I'm assuming, yeah.
There's no,
But you can't click it because it's not a parcel.
oh, okay,
So if you can click a parcel, you can't click right away.
right.
So there's a parcel, and then right away can't be clicked. And it's 33 feet wide, so it's obviously dedicated as half of a road at some point.
Well, I think we should definitely get the flow right away there.
Yeah, so it'll only be for the length of his property. But then, at least you got that coming in, so if and when anything else happens down here.
The property to the south may be developed at some point.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, this is a quarry, but I don't know. There could be reclamation plans for future homes or who knows what on that.
Mike?
I've had this question in the past, but when two parcels have the same ownership and they're unplatted,
Mm-hmm.
why do we always require a full CSM? Is it this just the case because of dealing with this right-of-way issue, or can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, I can. So these are two separate parcels. This remnant, even though it's attached, it's under the county allowed it to be under the same tax key. You can see the GIS shows this lot line doesn't go away. So you have to abide by any setback according to that lot line. And so if he wants to put a new building on this property.
Is that just in Vernon? I asked because in other municipalities that we have the same exact issue, so to speak.
That's been my interpretation, and that's the village attorney's interpretation, as to how it works.
How have you seen
Now,
that?
I know the county, the county has seen a situation before when we used to be in a county zoning, and they would allow the landowner to basically sign something and record something that's.
And then the municipality has to acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it and allow it to happen, but that's not how we
That's not
done
good.
it here.
Just because there is an additional cost to,
Doing a CSM.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's-
But however, it's still nice to clean it up. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
this is a small sliver remnant property that's existed like that for who knows how long, but it's all under one lot. It should be cleaned up.
Further questions from the commissioner of the board? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion from the plan commission for recommendation to combine the lots for the certified survey map that has been submitted by Jason Riley for the property, as I indicated before, with the two conditions stated in the planner comments.
So moved.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion was made by trustee Millies and seconded by Commissioner Rinaldi. Discussion from the plan commission?
Did that include the right-of-way?
So one of the conditions was to satisfy all comments and conditions in the staff report, so that would include that right away.
So Jason, you understand what Sean's saying about that, right? Okay,
I'll have it added in
okay.
my system.
And then, Sean, did you get the, Sean's comments? Were these emailed to you? Oh, Brad will email
also,
them to
yeah.
you, so that you can give them to your surveyor. I'm sorry, further discussion from the plan commission? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there, that was unanimous, it's aye. Is there a concurrence from the village board as stated by the plan commission for approval of the combination of certified survey maps?
So moved.
Second to the motion? Second by myself. Discussion from the board? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Stay right there, Mr. Riley, we just have a public hearing. This is a notice that a public hearing will be held by the Village Plan Commission. This is just for the Plan Commission on Wednesday, August 14th at 6 o'clock at the Village Hall at W249 South 8910 Center Drive to consider the accessory building waiver request for the property owned by Jason Riley for the property located at W224 South 7970 Oak Ridge Drive in the village of Vernon, property number, VNT number 2065992. The request is a waiver to exceed the permitted aggregate size of the accessory building for the property. And once again, this is just for Plan Commission. Sean, I'll let you explain what Mr. Riley is asking for. Then we'll go to Mr. Riley and
Pretty simple. His property is just over an acre, so it's between 1 and 2 acres. The limit is 1,200 square feet of aggregate accessory building on the property. There's an existing detached garage that is 456 square feet. He wants to build this new 1,200 square feet accessory building, so the total would be 1,656 square feet, exceeding the limit by 456 square feet. So we've looked at waivers for accessory buildings for a number of reasons, location, size. So we have seen these in the past. If I go back to the aerial photograph, property is pretty secluded. You can see there's dense vegetation on pretty much all sides. So this old building will be gone. The new building will essentially be here, tucked away in the trees. You're probably not going to see it. There's a list of basically considerations that the Plan Commission has to consider, but not necessarily find affirmative, is whether or not the waiver modification, if granted, would be consistent with the general intent of the zoning ordinance, whether it would adversely affect property owners, whether or not it would benefit the petitioner's project that's not inconsistent with village interests, whether the petitioner is in full compliance with applicable ordinances and agreements, and whether or not instead of granting the request, the chapter itself should be changed to accommodate the kind of situation presented. So those are the things that have to be considered. Normally, the Plan Commission wouldn't see this building because of its size, except the aggregate square footage is exceeding the total that's allowed. So that's all I have for an introduction. The petitioners, came to me and said, "Hey, you want to do this size building?" And I explained the process, and here we are.
Jason, anything you'd like to add to Sean's comments?
I think it's pretty well covered.
Okay. Plan Commission, any questions?
The new building's not attached to the garage.
There's a 10-foot separation.
Okay.
Dan?
What is the reason for your request to make a building this big?
Due to the amount of vehicles I have stored / work inside of it.
You're not running a business out of it, Jason?
Absolutely not.
There would be a deed restriction on the property. That's required as part of this. It says it can't be used for commercial purposes.
Correct.
And no animals, Jason?
I have one animal.
I mean, you're not doing horses or?
No.
Okay. Sorry. Plan Commission, further questions? Any?
How old is the house that the garage is detached?
1956.
So it's an older home.
Correct.
Because if the garage was attached to the house, you'd be able to put the 12-foot building.
That's true. If this was actually attached, then this would not be.
And being the age of this, where they didn't attach the garages to the homes like that, I can see make an exception now. Allow for the 1,200 square foot based on that.
I don't see why not. It's hidden behind the house from the road and nobody's gonna see it.
You gotta think of the reasons why, so it's for the next time.
Yeah.
A lot of codes, I guess, it's not in Vernon's code, but other codes do have a provision that says if you have just a detached garage and your garage isn't attached, you get to exclude that square footage from the calculation. So that speaks to your point, Chad.
Yeah, because you really you could add a breezeway connecting the garage to the house and
It'd be fine.
Yeah, so that's why I don't have an issue with it.
Other comments from the Plan Commission and
No
Board?
objections from the neighbors and somebody would like to
Yep.
speak.
I just was checking with if you guys are done for now. To the public, sir, would you like to make a comment?
I'm a neighbor, I have no objection.
Oh,
It
okay.
is a heavily wooded area, you wouldn't even be able to barely see it. It's really no objection whatsoever. I just got the notice, I was curious.
Oh, okay. You're not the neighbor with all the semis and all the...
No, that's not me.
No.
That is John, nice fellow.
Is his last name Koji?
John Hendricks.
Okay.
How many accessory buildings are on that property?
Well, that's not on the agenda, but we're gonna look at that one. Anything else from the public? Commissioner Board or Jason, did you want to add anything before I close the public hearing?
I think I'm okay.
Brad, did you want to, I didn't even ask you, did you want to say?
No, everybody's covered everything. I have nothing to add.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing. And next on the agenda is Mr. Riley's request for the waiver to exceed the permitted acreage size of the accessory building on the property. And just as an aside, in Sean's comments on 1A, the A and E, we all, every time we go through those line by line, but on A through E, as the planner stated, does anybody have any objections to those requests that we go through? Because it is part of the motion for approval is that the Plan Commission looked at, the criteria. And is there any criteria that you disagree with or think we should modify or change? I can tell from the Plan Commission they're saying no, so I would make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the accessory building waiver request for Jason Riley for the property located at W224 South 7970 Oak Ridge Drive in the village of Vernon with the 12 conditions stated by the planner. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Nowak. Discussion.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out one thing, and I just want to bring everybody's attention to it for us in the future. And it kind of came up earlier when we were talking about when we approved the CSM, and it said no future access from ES, but now we're saying, well, that would make sense. So, whatever we put onto these CSMs are good at impacting in the future. And it might not impact this one, but when it talks about in item, when it restricts any commercial use, so item 8, the petitioner shall record a deed restriction on the property in a form approved by the village attorney, giving notice that use of the accessory building may not be used for commercial or industrial purposes. Personally, I would like to see a caveat introduced there, except when they, would otherwise be allowed to. Because sometimes you could build an accessory building that right now you're not looking to get that, but if we then attach it to things like conditional uses or CSMs, now it's going to be issues in the future. The reason I bring it up with this one is we're granting a waiver. So if someone is looking at this in 5, 10, 15, 20 years and they say they were granted a waiver, maybe the reason we granted a waiver is because we knew this could never be a commercial or industrial use. That would, to me, if I'm looking at it in back, that might be a reason why. But to just blanket put this language into each one, I think is another, that's on my list of things that we can talk about in future ones, but I wanted to show everybody where it shows up in each one that we approve.
Each one of the conditions?
Yeah.
And Mike, have you seen it drafted differently? Have you seen the caveat in other conditions?
Yeah, and similar to that language, just unless you take the proper steps, just like we did when we were talking about the access for the last one. You still have to go through all the same process.
Oh, I see.
But it's just being able to say, okay, this is how we can not have to reinvent the wheel or raise all these red flags. Again, when you're looking back, especially since we're granting a waiver in this case, we're kind of going outside the normal limits, so to speak.
Right.
There might be a time where we say, well, no, we want to make sure, even if something else were to change, that this could never fall under that conditional use, category.
And go ahead, Sean.
So something to be added in the future, that I think this language is also mirrored in the ordinance too, in terms of anything above 900 square feet requires that restriction. So something along the lines of under the current zoning, or unless approved by the Plan Commission board, or something.
Correct. Yeah, just so it doesn't attach to it and then become this can of worms that somebody has to unpack unintentionally. Because right now, we would approve it and possibly cause a problem in the future.
Sure.
Again, not necessarily
Right.
saying that it has to apply to this one, but just to
Language,
find out.
yeah. to look
Okay, I
at.
have a note.
Good point, Mike. Further discussion from the Plan Commission. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Jason, you are all done.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, once the administrator gets you the staff report comments, your surveyor would update the survey. I think a quick look at it, make sure it's ready for recording. Once that is recorded, then then we can get you can apply for your zoning and building permit for your building.
Well,
Okay?
thank you.
I just found out from Brad that, the next agenda item, the person's not here. So, I don't know,
It's up to you whether or not we go forward with it.
well, it's not a public hearing, and I know, Sean, you'll be able to, explain to the plan commission what they're looking to do. What I'll do is I'll read it, and if we have problems, we can always put it back on the agenda again, but this is a discussion of possible action from Renee Rommel for the property owned by Patrick Berry and Renee Rommel for the properties located at W258 South 1060 Horseshoe Lane and W248 South 10640 Horseshoe Lane in the village of Vernon, identified by tax key numbers VNT 2146016, VNT 2146017, for the approval of the certified survey map to configure adjacent lots. Sean, can you explain it?
Sure. These are two lots in landmark estates, essentially the land use plan and the zoning, which is RRD5, rural residential, and then there's also an environmental corridor overlay across the whole thing. It all limits density to 1 unit per 5 acres, which is what the subdivision is. These lots are 6.6 acres and 5.8 acres. They just want to reconfigure the two parcels. So here's their certified survey map. New lot 1 of the CSM will be 10.2 acres, and new lot 2 will be 2.1 acres. They both have homes on them already, so they're already built. Proposed lot 2 will have an existing accessory building on it. Everything shown in the CSM complies with the zoning in terms of setbacks, offsets, lot sizes, etc. The accessory building on lot 2, it's a little bit larger than a 1,200 square foot building. It's 13 something. Let me just double check what that is. 1350, yeah. The 2.1 acre lot would allow up to 1,372 square feet, so it is in compliance with that as well. Our surveyor again has a bunch of technical comments. The one thing I'd add that's important that the village attorney recommended is that because lot 1 now is 10.2 acres, looking at the comprehensive plan, looking at the zoning, it would appear that could potentially be redivided. So to get around any misunderstandings, we'd be asking for a deed restriction to be put on that property and also on the CSM, that under the current zoning of that property, you can't subdivide it. So if it got rezoned in the future or something else, it would be okay. So that's it. There's nothing in the subdivision plat that would prohibit this, like no redivision of lots or no reconfiguration of lots. So this would be permitted.
Dan?
Apparently, they increased the size of lot 2 to accommodate the accessory building.
They did, because they originally submitted as 2 acres.
I was under the impression it was 2 acres.
Yeah, they resubmitted, and now it's 2.1.
Is there a reason why they're making the one lot so much bigger and one smaller, or?
Well, they own both the lots, and I don't remember, Brad, do you remember what the reason is? It's a family thing.
Yeah, I believe Mrs. Rommel's father passed away, and he was the owner of Lot 2, and with the passing, they're going to, I believe, sell off Lot 2 and keep Lot 1.
Keep the majority.
Discussion from the plan commission or village board? Do you feel comfortable acting on this with the person not being here? I mean, typically we ask them to be here, but, I mean, do you feel comfortable? How do you feel?
Pretty straightforward, I
Okay.
think, and as long as it can't be divided again, I
No,
couldn't see why we would have.
pretty much all wooded land, wasn't it?
It's all environmental corridor, yeah.
Never, your little symbols on here, I was thinking that's more marsh.
Yeah.
It looks like marsh, but yeah, it's supposed to be environmental corridor.
Okay.
So, is there a motion from the plan commission to make a recommendation to the village board to approve the request for Renee Rommel at the address I indicated and tax key numbers with the 2 conditions stated by the planner in his planner comments?
I will so move.
Is there a second to the motion?
Does that, excuse me, does that include the discussion about prohibiting future subdividing?
That's a condition that.
That condition, yeah, that's in the report.
And that's in the attorney comments also?
I'll second it.
Okay, so a motion made by Commissioner Nowak and second by Commissioner Rinaldi to approve the certified survey, to make a recommendation to approve the certified map to the village board with the two conditions stated. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there a motion to the village board to concur with the plan commission's recommendation of approval to, motion by trustee Newman. Is there a second to the motion? Second by trustee Pecca. Discussion from the village board on concurrence with the motion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Jeff and Dylan, did you say aye? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So it was unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Sean.
I might set it up here, but I said.
Next agenda item is the conceptual amendments to the zoning code specifically related to accessory dwelling units and setting a public hearing date. Sean?
I think we talked about this with Attorney Macy. I think some of the questions that came out of the Plan Commission board last time was a couple things. One is can we prohibit in any way the accessory dwelling unit from being used as a short-term rental, and if so, how? There was questions about enforcement of restrictions on the property, whether restrictions for family members or restrictions related to whatever the accessory dwelling unit. There was also some interest from the Plan Commission board, maybe looking at a room tax and an ordinance for short-term rentals. All those things were discussed. We went back and talked to the village attorney, who was in the process of researching some of this. He suggested we actually bring this back to
Staff.
the village board staff meeting and
Invite the plan commission. We have a staff meeting on the 29th of August, and we would, we usually start staff at 5 o'clock, and we put this at the very beginning of that staff meeting, so plan commission and village board could ask the attorney and the planner their questions in regards to the ADUs, you know.
Right.
Would the plan commission want to participate in that discussion? So it would be August 29th. Well, I could work on that. But it'd be August 29th at 5 o'clock, and Brad, we'd put this right on the beginning, that way Sean and John, everybody would be here, and then you guys wouldn't have to stay for the whole meeting, you could just eat and go.
Do we have something in writing on this now, Sean?
No, he wanted to be prepared, and he's in the process of researching things.
Right.
So
And just in case something comes up in the discussion that we missed in our discussion there, we could pick up.
the only thing you have is what I supplied last time that talked about accessory dwelling units, my last staff report. So that's still out there.
Right. I think we had that in the last packet, did Brad? I think we did. I'll double check.
If it was on a staff report, it would have been in there.
Yeah, it was the last
Yeah.
meeting.
Right, I made a proposal at the last meeting that they be serviced off of one driveway.
Yeah, that's still out there. I haven't updated anything yet, but
Okay.
that's still out there, yes. That was a great idea, yeah.
One other item, I wasn't at that last meeting, I did watch it, and I think we kind of might have danced around it, but I wanted to put it out there of talking about, since we were saying that this is a conditional use, it's a secondary use to require, and the thought of, well, how do we get around Airbnb and those types of things? Did we discuss, or can we discuss, the idea of owner occupancy requirement for the primary residence? Just because whatever happens, you know, in that other building, the person who owns and lives and resides on the property is going to have to, one, put up with it, and two, if there's an issue, the cops come, they're going to go right past the accessory dwelling unit, go right to the property owner,
Right.
who then is going to have some, you know, and I don't know if that was kind of baked into anything. I know with certain conditional uses that is a fact. I think that's a strong one to be able to say, hey, this is a secondary use. Otherwise, it does become a multifamily situation as opposed to.
That is currently a requirement in the draft conditions that I drew up as a primary residence.
At the last meeting, were we leaning towards eliminating the separate building rather than having it attached?
We never really landed on that. I don't
No,
think.
and I know John wants to talk to the plan commission and board field your questions, Sean's comments, questions, things. So we thought that would be good to have it at staff, and then it would come back to the next plan commission meeting, but at least have some open discussion. So Sean and John and the plan commission, the administrator, everybody could, bring their comments up, and then we'd have, actually do a public hearing, when we know what we're asking for.
Yeah.
Once everyone gets their questions answered, then we can determine whether or not they would be allowed or not,
And that's an open meeting, Eric, Mr. Connor, do you want to come and, we usually don't take public comments, but you're welcome to call us with your issues too. We just thought it would be good to have that dialogue with the plan commission and the board and the attorney there, because they had a lot of legal questions that nobody could answer.
Right, I couldn't answer.
Right. So, is that agreeable to the plan commission and village board? Okay, so that's what we'll do then. I have no report, and our minutes for July 10th for approval. The only thing I have is trustee Jim Swaney was not in office at the time.
Also on 6A, I made a motion and seconded.
6. Had another one. 6.
You're mobile.
Okay, so Brad, you're going to have to go back and listen to that to make sure that, do you want the minutes to come back, or do you want Brad to just to correct that?
Yeah.
Okay. And the only other thing I had was that it says that no action was taken on those minutes. It should say the minutes were not prepared. It's not like we didn't, just so the public knows that there were no minutes to approve. It's not that we didn't take any action. So Brad, if you could make those corrections, I'd make a motion.
I would tweak one more thing
Okay.
under, what number is that? For the plan commission recommends, it probably would be the plan commission recommendation to the village board. Would make more sense.
Okay. Brad, you have all that? If you want to scribble on mine.
I got it.
You got
I
it?
got them, and I go back and listen. They're all pretty simple, and so.
Any other comments? All in favor of for Plan Commission. Plan Commission, I make a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, with the corrections as stated at the meeting. At this meeting, is there a second to my motion? Second by Plan Commission. Jeff, Commissioner Millies, Trustee Millies made that second. Discussion from the Plan Commission? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. I'd make the same motion for the village board to approve with the condition, with the corrections as stated at the meeting today. Is there a second to my motion? Second by Trustee Newman. Discussion? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there a motion to adjourn from the Plan Commission?
So moved.
You're not Plan Commission, Jay.
He's following my lead.
Trustee Commissioner Millies made that motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Nowak made the second. Is there discussion from the Plan Commission? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Plan Commission is adjourned. Village Board, is there a motion to adjourn? That was done by Trustee Newman. Was that second by Trustee Pecca? Discussion from the Village Board. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
It was way.
Thanks, guys. Dan, you take care.
Sean.
Don't do too much on that.
What is the model number, is that like for your?
Oh, you asked me about the
I know,
laptop
I
last
got it,
time.
I got it.
It's a Z book. HP Z.
H, E,
Z.
okay, so like if I want to Google search.
You can figure that out.
Goodbye, Mario.
Yes, I was looking.
Goodbye,
at
Michael.
that.
Nice big screen. Huh?
Yeah, I love that, 'cause, like for writing.
We'll see you
papers
in
and stuff.
It's really
October,
nice, yeah.
Mario.
That's why I like it.
Have a good night. Are we good?
So, you, yeah, if you just make those changes to that.
Yeah, I can just do that, I can do that in the morning. and have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a,
No, did you look at it, Matt? That 3,000 square foot buffer is huge.
So,
The 3,000 foot.
one of the questions that came up is,
As a whole.
in the GIS data, does it link to assessing value? Is there a way to pull assessed values out of the parcels that aren't within the okay. You've answered the
I mean, I
question.
could do, yeah, I mean, I could get all the parcels that are outside the boundary. So
That is, so you could generate lists for
any
me.
parcel that's not in the boundary, I could generate a list of the parcels.
Okay, that might be beneficial.
And then you could pull them,
Then I have this assessment rule on Excel. I could
you could.
try to get into the same format so that you could.
Let me think about that for a minute.
Just think.
There might be an easier way for me to do it.
Yeah, just, I mean, I have the assessor rule list, so whatever because that's one of the questions that came up is, or that.
Here's what I could do. I could get the parcels outside. I could make a spreadsheet out of it with the assessed value, and then you could just total them up.
Yeah, yep.
See.
Yeah, because we're just more looking at what's the average.
What is the assessed value?
So I think one of the claims in the past is, Karen. Oh, the referendum ordinance.
Oh, Karen, your mouth.
Your little pink mouse.
Referendum ordinance for,
Oh, yeah, the one that we
yes.
didn't have.
So what is the claim of the assessed
So
value?
he's